Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Big East Rewind. I'm your host, Chuck Everson from Villanova University, and as always, my main man, number 23 for the Syracuse Orangemen, Sonny Spera. How are you, Sonny?
Doing great, Chuck. We got one of my guys in the house tonight.
One of your guys. I know. I can't wait to talk to this guy. He was a pretty good player. He did a lot of good things over there in the Dome, so he's a pretty good player with us today. So, you know, you've gotten a lot of pretty good players that came out of that university, Sonny.
Yeah, how about that? You know,
not bad, not bad. Boeheim did all right for being there 40-something years now.
You know, I'll tell you, man, our guy too. He's a homegrown guy. He's hour down the road, man.
Right, Rochester, right? Yeah, so
right, Rochester, New York.
There you go. Without any further ado, let me introduce our guest. When he graduated Syracuse, he was in the top 5 in scoring, rebounding, and in block shots. His number 44 hangs in the rafters. Syracuse legend, John Wallace is with us. How are you, John?
Chuck, what's up? Sonny, it's always good to see you, my brother. I appreciate you guys having me on your show, and I'm looking forward to it today.
So before we start, John, I got to tell you, Cuse is in the house.
Oh, my God.
There it is.
There it is. I had a bet with Sonny that you would follow that up, John. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Just won me dinner. Thank you.
We had a backup plan in case you didn't go. I was going there, so
I just actually bought that. I own that now. The whole Q.
Oh, do you? So do we have to pay you money now, John? Because we said
I'll let you guys slide. You're from the real Big East era. The real Big East. You know what I mean?
So Sonny's telling me right before we start the show, Sonny's telling me about this expression that we just said. And he said it was on T-shirts and everywhere up and down Marshall Street, right? How did that come about?
Well, it had nothing to do with me. It was, I'm not even sure who the guy who put it on shirts. Back then, it was just a fun thing. And, you weren't even thinking about it from a financial money standpoint, right?
Right.
Just happy to be a part of that run. It came from a song. And I started saying it after we beat Arizona in Arizona in 1995. We stopped their 56-game non-conference home game winning streak. And after the game, it was just basically Cuse in the house, meaning like when we're on the road, we're still in the house. So we travel, as Sonny will tell you.
I know.
When Syracuse played, there's always Cuse fans. I don't care where we play.
Everywhere.
We play in Alaska. We could play in Canada, like wherever we play, there's Cuse fans. And it's just part of being like Cuse in the house. Oh my God, like watch out for us. Here we come.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So and I've been around Marshall Street. I visited there, back in the day in high school, and obviously we played there numerous times. And that place is nuts down there. You see, when we were playing, it was all pearl shirts and stuff down in Marshall Street. But sitting on top of the dome, spinning the ball on his finger.
Chuck, you guys you guys from Villanova, the Jesuit school, which is a great school and all that. But you guys come up to Syracuse, you're just like, oh my God, you guys actually have that much fun, and you're that good at basketball. So
yeah,
I know you're like shell shocked up there.
It's funny, John, because being the good Catholic university, it's Augustinian though. By the way, they would shoot me if I didn't correct you. So
okay.
And I would call and I would tell my mom I was in the library. I'd tell my girlfriend, oh, I'm in the library. But the library was a club in the hotel that we all hung out at after the game. So we didn't lie, but we were in the library, but I wasn't reading any books, John.
No doubt. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's start, John. Tell you started playing basketball a little bit later, right? When did you start playing ball?
8th grade, first year playing organized ball. I was 13. Up till that point, it was all about football, which is my first love, and boxing. And honestly, today, that's my favorite sport to watch, boxing.
Really?
And like a big fight. Yeah, I love big fights, really good fights, competitive fights. So yeah, it was all about boxing and football coming up. And then Coach Doug Childs talked me into going to a basketball camp. And not only did he talk me into it, he paid for it. Because I was just like, man, we don't have extra money for a camp. He's like, don't worry about it, I'll pay it. And so Mr. Childs, he paid for my camp, and the rest is history. And that's why he was at my retirement back in 2020 on February 29th. he flew up for it. He's actually the one who got me started and put that battery in my back to go and give it a try.
Now, where were you boxing? Were you boxing like at the Boys and Girls Club? Where was boxing? Where was that happening?
PAL. You guys remember PAL?
Police athletic league.
Police athletic
Yes, I did everything PAL offered. They offered football, I did that. They offered boxing, I did that. They offered softball, I did that. They offered basketball. I actually did play basketball for PAL, but it was not really organized. It was just like, a couple games here and there and travel, but I did play basketball for them too. So my mom basically had me doing whatever they were offering, just to keep me active and busy and staying out of trouble from hanging around the wrong crowd.
So
So
boxing and football really had you prepped for those Georgetown wars at the Dome. I guess when you got into the Big East, you were ready for combat when you got to those games, right, John?
No doubt, as you know, Chuck, the Big East back then was just a really, really tough conference. It was hard nosed. Bring your lunch pail and your hard hat, and and we loved it, right? That's what we came up on. We loved watching the games. We loved being a part of the big Mondays. We loved being part of all the rivalry games, all the big games. Just there's nothing like the real Big East. And I keep saying the real Big East because it's so different now. And some of the schools are still in there, but for the most part, the original teams and the teams that were part of all those rivalries back then, and all those great coaches and great teams, that's changed a little bit now. And honestly, without Villanova, the Big East would really be in trouble. I think Villanova, you guys have been carrying the torch for the Big East. Winning a couple of national championships in 2016 and 2018. Jay Wright, keeping a top 5, top 10 program perennially. So, hats off to what Jay Wright's been able to do in the midst of, the change and what's been going on. Obviously Syracuse and Coach Boeheim, I know, didn't want to leave the Big East, but it was out of his hands, and honestly, it still sucks.
Football.
I miss being in the Big East.
Yep.
The ACC, just like
nothing like it. So you get introduced to basketball, and then what's your path now through high school?
Well, through high school, I played another year of football, but all the way up until high school, I was like a quarterback, running back, outside linebacker. And then in high school, because I'm taller than everyone else, and back then you had your prototypical players and what size they had to be. So
right,
like if you're over like 6 feet, 6'1", you couldn't be a quarterback back then. It was just like, what do you mean you can't be a quarterback at 6'4"? So I got put at tight end, and this was the pre-Gronk days, so there was no glory at tight end. It wasn't like you were getting a lot of looks, a lot of crackback blocks, a lot of red zone looks. Like when he got in the red zone, I knew I was going to get some looks, but we had to get to the red zone. But in defense, I played defensive end, which is very similar to outside linebacker, so that's pretty much the same. But after that last year, and it's just like, not touching the ball that much and hitting a growth spurt, and grew 6 inches the summer going into sophomore year. It was time to give basketball a real go, and it worked out.
That's great. Now your high school coach, you guys you still in touch?
Yeah, Don Brown, he came up to the retirement. Obviously I don't see him as much now, being in New York City, mostly doing what I'm doing with the Knicks and MSG. When I go to Rochester, basically to see my family, and then I'm out of there in a day or two. It's hard to get more than 3 or 4 days in Rochester with my schedule and everything that's going on.
Now, how soon did Syracuse get in the picture, right? Because you're in the backyard. And was Rosie involved in any of the recruitments for you?
No, 10th grade. I remember my letter from Syracuse very vividly. Walking down the hall and Coach Don Brown telling me to sit down. I got a letter and he showed me that Syracuse letter, and it's from Bernie Fine. And for me, from that day forward, I knew that's where I wanted to go. I mean, and you know, Fran Fraschilla and Rick Barnes did a great job recruiting me because honestly, my sophomore year, I was close to signing with Providence. I mean, they did a great job. My mom really loved him. Fran Fraschilla, I mean, that guy drove to Rochester once a week for about 2.5 years. And he didn't miss a week. I mean, he's a great recruiter. It was hard to say no to them because of the work he put in. And you like to see someone get rewarded for that kind of work and all that. But I just knew Syracuse was a better fit for me. And as opposed to the Providence fit and that style, I was more of a Syracuse player. I wanted to be more like Derek Coleman and Billy Owens and not like, you know, Michael Smith and Dickie Simpkins. So for that matter, you know, just an easy choice for me.
Right.
Were you a fan of Syracuse back as you started to play after your 8th grade year? Is that somebody that you watched them on TV or?
I've always loved Syracuse. I've always been enamored with the whole Syracuse Georgetown rivalry. Watching the Patrick Ewing and those teams against Syracuse back then, watching Tony Red Bruin dunk on those guys. I mean, it was just and Pearl making Michael McDonald fall. He made him fall, and as he's going by him, he pointed at him and started laughing, and he made him fall. I remember all those games vividly and wanting to be a part of that. And obviously not knowing you're going to be a part of that, but just being like how cool it was and how dope it was that those two teams had real disdain. I remember Coach Boeheim at the press conference saying that the better team didn't win today. They might have won, but the better team didn't win after that foul Michael Graham committed.
Yeah.
So because he got kicked out of the game, then they put him back in the game because John Thompson like threatened to pull his team or something. So I just remember all that, and I'm just like, man, to be a part of that or get a chance to be a part of that would mean everything. And on the flip side, I told teams like Georgetown, North Carolina, Indiana, don't even bother recruiting me because I wasn't that type of player.
Nice.
Wow. So did you make your way then at that time? Because when Sonny and I are a little older than you, so there really wasn't AAU back then. Did you go to the camps or did you do the AAU circuit when you were?
No, we had it. So shout out to my boy Mickey Walker.
Mickey
had a great team, and Mickey had the only AAU team in all of upstate, and we beat everyone. We went a whole summer without losing. 3 of us made it to the NBA, and the other 2, were high majors, Lazarus Sims and Willie Cauley. So our team, we only had 5 guys: myself, Rick Brunson, Art Long, Willie Cauley, Lazarus Sims. That was our 5.
Rick Brunson, was it Jalen's dad, Rick Brunson?
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
Rick, because Rick's from Syracuse.
Oh, right.
He moved to Massachusetts with his father in like 8th or 9th grade. But Rick's actually from Syracuse. His mom still lives in Syracuse. So he's in Syracuse all the time. He loved, he's a Syracuse guy. So we were playing AAU ball since 14 years old. And, we had a really, really good team. And back then, there was only one team upstate, and it was Mickey Walker. There's a lot of good players who didn't play AAU because there's only one team.
Wow.
Now,
yeah,
Chuck,
like today it's watered down.
With that team with only 5 guys, no parents complained about playing time.
That's true. Just don't,
Sonny,
don't pick up any fouls.
That's pre-parents even traveling then. Parents didn't even travel today. My mom never saw one AAU game in her life.
Oh my goodness!
It just wasn't that kind of work. It just you left with your coach. You came back 3 days later, and you went to school the next day.
Mickey had that big Cadillac, right? Didn't he? Mickey have that Cadillac? What car did Mickey drive?
Yeah, Mickey had it's like a Lincoln. I used to drive it.
Lincoln. Yeah.
Big Lincoln.
And you survived all of that. Imagine that, John. The parents today are all over their kids when it comes to that stuff.
Mickey's a great guy.
The parents are worse than the kids, and some of them live in jaded worlds. I have some parents who are, a father's 5'6", the mom's 5'1", and their son is 12 years old, and he's probably at his adult height already. That's why he's so good, but they don't understand that. And I try to explain to them, like, don't put all your eggs in the basketball because he's probably done growing at 5'4". Like, that's why he's so good. Like, he has all his coordination is there. and some parents are like, oh, you're hating. But then I had a couple of parents who come back a couple of years later. They're like, I wish you, I hope you, I thank you for keeping it real with me, because I put my son in some more academic stuff, because I didn't like, some parents get all about basketball, and when it doesn't work out, and you put all that pressure on a 12-year-old kid and a 13-year-old kid who's ranked. I don't know why they rank kids that young. It's ridiculous. I mean, what is that? Who cares if you're ranked in 5th grade or 6th grade? It means nothing. They shouldn't even allow it. I mean,
I totally agree.
The fact that they rank kids so young messes up the kids. You know, of course, a kid that's ranked at a young age is going to start feeling a certain way, might get complacent. You know, I just never bought into that whole ranking system and all that. Just play ball. There's a kid in Rochester who was ranked ahead of LeBron James in 9th grade, Jermaine Bell. And Jermaine Bell, he still had a good career. You know, he played pro ball and semi-pro leagues and all that. But I mean, where did the ranking get him? LeBron, you know what I mean? Like, you got to keep working, and you got to buy into the work ethic part of it. Like, if you're not ready to work every day and to work on parts of your game and be able to accept and be receptive of constructive criticism, then you probably shouldn't. You're not an athlete. At some point, coach going to have to get in and today's players can't really accept that. That's why I know I couldn't be a coach today, because I don't have the patience to deal with players who think they're so great and they won't accept or even allow you to talk to them like they know everything. You know what I mean? It's absurd.
So Bernie
sent coached.
Go ahead. So Bernie sent you the letter in 10th grade.
Yep.
Was Bernie your first point? How soon did Boeheim get involved? I mean, what was
Boeheim took over my junior year after we had a tournament, and I played really good. And basically he took over from that day forward in terms of making me his main priority. He was at all my games, all my AAU tournaments. He was right there. And you know, it was just, I mean, it was a done deal for me. He didn't really need to show up. I love Syracuse on its own. The fact that he showed up, the fact that they showed love, the fact that I love their style of play. You know, Sonny, you know, man, like, if you can play, if you're a polished player, Syracuse is a great place for you. If you got to work on your game a little bit and you might sit, it can be frustrating because coach only plays like, you know, 6, 7 guys, you know, and it can wear on you if you're not playing. So, but if you're a polished player and you can really play, Syracuse, he'll let you play. Syracuse is a great place, and you know, he'll definitely let you play your game. So,
yeah, and you average double figures every year. So when you came in as a freshman, DC was graduated, right?
Yeah, DC left in 90. I came in 92.
Okay, so was that someone that you modeled your game with? Did he have an influence on you in your game?
Sonny, so I went to the Syracuse camp my sophomore year. I bought a Derek Coleman jersey, the white one, and I wore it every day. I hooped in it every day. You know, like I was like Derek Coleman. I'm like, I am Derek Coleman. The shirt was like dingy, dirty.
A shirt could have walked to the wash by itself.
Yeah, I mean, I washed it. I washed it every night. I'd wash it by hand. You know, old school. I washed it by hand with some soap, hang it over the shower thing. It's dry in the morning. I'm putting it on the next day, and that's what I did every day. I love that jersey. I mean, one of the 4s was falling off. I mean, it was just the S and the Y was. I mean, but I wore it every day. That was my jersey. I love Derek Coleman. I love the way he played. I love his attitude. I love the number. And the same with Billy Owens. Like I had great guys to emulate at Syracuse because of my size and my game and what I was trying to do. Those guys are, you know, a little bit before their time in terms of being stretch 4, stretch 5s, even at Derek, you know, like they were a little bit before their time, but both supremely skilled, high skill set, high basketball IQ. Just a shame that we weren't able to win a title with those guys.
Explain to Chuck the significance, because I know people know about it in football. I don't know if they understand that the significance of the number 44 at Syracuse is off the charts.
Well, Sonny, you know why Jim Brown wore the number, right?
No,
Uh,
I do
uh,
not.
so, back then, black athletes weren't allowed to get like a full scholarship. So he got a partial scholarship, and 44 people donated money for him to go to school at Syracuse.
Oh, wow.
That's why he wore the number, and that's why the number is so special. It started with Jim Brown. Obviously, he should have been the first Black Heisman Trophy winner, but
Yep.
then Ernie Davis was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And rest in
Floyd
peace.
Little was another
Floyd
44,
Little
right?
passed away. But the number 44 is just special. My guy Rob Conrad, he's the last
Yeah.
football player to wear it, and I'm the last basketball player to wear the number up there. And I hold like when I think of that number, when I was wearing that number, I knew I had to represent it properly. I knew I had to, and if I didn't, Derek's gonna come back and beat me up. Like he literally pulled up to campus one day, was like, I heard they gave you my number. You better represent it, because if you don't, I'm coming back to F you up. Derek. And I'm just like, all right, I got you.
No mixing any words. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a 1-minute conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it was all one-sided.
It was a one-way conversation. That's
But
right.
a lot of head shaking and okay.
So now you get on campus, and you're ready to start your first year, John. You're ready to start your season. Talk about what it was like walking into the gym, into the dome the first time, because you guys didn't practice. You practiced at Manly, didn't you? I mean, back then, right?
So we practiced at
walking
Manly,
into Manly, a freshman, you're getting ready to go. What's going through your head when you come in the door for the first time to start practice?
I just wanted to let them know I belonged, and it happened in our first run, honestly. Adrian Autry had the ball on the break, and he passed it back to me, and I dunked on Conrad McRae. Rest in peace. And
Nick Nasty.
that for me was like, I'm here, like I belong. I can play with these guys. And then in that same game, Billy Owens was playing with us, and I scored on him a couple times. So I'm just like, oh, like those are things that I never forget, and those are things that took my confidence to a whole nother level. Because once you're there and then you belong, it changes your whole mindset, and not to be outdone, Comrade McRae, not to be outdone. I'm speaking for my boy who's not here anymore. The worst I've ever gotten dunked on in my life was by Conrad. It was on a tap dunk, and the ball bounces off the rim, and it's like, I don't know, maybe a foot and a half over the rim.
Ooh.
So we both jump. Now I've hit the top of my jump, and now I'm starting to descend, and Conrad is still ascending. And as he's ascending, he grabs my shoulder with his with his left hand, and dunks it with his right hand, and he throws me on the ground. And he's screaming emphatically, "Ah!" So Coach Boeheim's like, all right, we're gonna end practice. Ask Adrian Autry about this story. I'm like, in practice? Oh no, jump ball, we gotta keep playing. I gotta get him back. You know what I mean? So we kept playing another 20 minutes. But Conrad and I were always going at it. Man, such an incredible athlete. I mean, he jumped out the gym. It was his athleticism was off the charts.
Well, you're at your position. You mentioned it before. You were well ahead of your time, because at the time, our fours at Syracuse were typically a little more inside, a little more back to the basket, where you played the wing. You easily could have been like a 2 or a 3, and your class, you came in with Otis Hill and JB. So you got 2 centers that are in your class. So, it's not like they're bringing in guys at your position. So what was your expectations where you were going to play?
Like I said, Sonny, after that first run, I knew I was going to play. I knew I was going to. I wasn't worried about JB actually came in 91. He's a year before me, but he redshirted.
Right.
JB and Lazara Sims both redshirted.
Right.
They came in with those 6 guys with Anthony Harris, Luke Jackson, Glenn Secunda, Lazara Sims, JB, and Lawrence Moulton came in with that class. So, but I knew I was going to play right away because, like I said, the very first run, I was playing I had no issues scoring, holding my own, getting rebounds. all the things I did in high school, I was still doing at that level. And I remember going home being like, I got this. Like I knew I was going to play. I wasn't worried.
It's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, and then so now, you walk in, now you go in, and have you ever played in front of that many people before? Your first game at the Dome with 30,000 maniacs screaming all in orange? What was that like? I know what it's like to play there on the other side, John, and it wasn't fun for us. We got our doors blown off every time we played up there. It was to me, and Sonny and I have talked about this, it was the toughest place to play for an opposing player, in my view.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the greatest place to play as a Syracuse player. I mean, I don't think there's a better stadium, arena, dome in the country. And for a lot of players, the depth perception messed up their shot in the Dome. And
That's
for
right.
me, I loved it because I shot better in the Dome. So I love the whole Dome. I love that atmosphere. I love playing, in front of 30,000 people. I mean, there's nothing like it, having 30,000 people having your back. And I can say this with extreme confidence that Syracuse fans have never booed a Syracuse team, even some of the teams who deserved it, who didn't play good or didn't play hard that particular night. But those fans are so loyal and so loving, and just the greatest ever. They've never booed us. They've always come to support, even when it's minus 20 wind chill and 3 feet of snow outside.
And that wind on the hill.
Yeah, it's still gonna be some faithfuls up in there. Might not be the 30,000, but you'll get 20,000 still in there, and it's an incredible place, man. I'm grateful to be a part of that Syracuse lineage.
Well, you guys were really their pro team up there. There was no pro teams up that way, so you guys were it, right? I mean, the popularity of the basketball team in the 80s and 90s, right up until you guys finally got the chip with Carmelo, right? I mean, you guys had to be the most popular guys on campus walking around for sure on Marshall Street, right?
Absolutely, and some of the football guys didn't like it, but it was what it was. You know what I mean? It was a known thing. That was our campus. We ran the campus. But we were when you're 18, 19, 20 years old at a major university, you want two things to happen if you're playing ball. You want to be successful and try to further yourself, whether it's in a pro career or in the business world, and you want to have fun. And Syracuse definitely checks both of those boxes. I mean, we were a great party school, so from a social life standpoint, we had a great time, and we won a lot of basketball games. We had a good team, so we had the best of both worlds. I feel like at Syracuse, and a lot of guys, a lot of guys came in and they were jealous of the fun we had. The way at that time, Coach Boeheim didn't really have like curfews per se, so you can kind of hang out. You can be a college athlete. And a lot of guys came in. They had curfews. They had curfews even when they were at home. And we didn't have a curfew at home until the whole Mike Edwards situation, where the Notre Dame game, and that's when we started staying on the hotel for the home games. But even then, I used to, he let us leave, because the night before a game, I would want to sleep in my bed. So it wasn't like I was leaving to go and party. I was leaving to go and get a good night's rest in my bed, so I didn't have to be woken up early to be brought back to my bed the next morning. I'll just sleep all the way through, get a good night's rest, and be prepared for the game, because there's nothing more important than getting your rest and proper preparation before every game. Every game was big, right? I didn't care if we were playing Marathon Oil. I wanted to play the best I could play.
Yeah, played those guys.
So talk about the run in '96, right?
Well, that run started, and I talk about this all the time. It started that summer. And what I mean by that is I started having guys come to my house every weekend, every Sunday, starting in August, building that camaraderie, building that cohesiveness off the court. So when we had times when we were playing against teams who were more talented, had more better players, man by man, we could beat them by loving each other more, being together, being a closer knit unit. So that started in the summer. And I always felt like I was the best player on the court. And with that mindset, you always have a chance to win every game. And besides the Georgetown game when I was 6 for 17 that game. Other than that, you'd be hard pressed to find a game my senior year when someone was like just clearly better than me on the court. I took that personal every game.
Yeah.
And the game at the Dome when Georgetown came after I played bad at Georgetown and John Thompson, may he rest in peace, said that Boubacar All was the John Wallace stopper. So I took that personal, and I had something to say to Coach Thompson and Boubacar after every basket, and I dropped 25 and 13, beat them by 20, sent them home, and that was AI and their last game at the Dome, and sent them home with a nice L.
That's good. At what point? What would you think, John, is what was the turning point that season where all of a sudden you guys got the feeling that, hey, we can make a run here in the playoffs? What point did you had that?
Well, I think it was even before the playoffs, Chuck, in terms of we started the season like outside the top 40, and then we won our first like 11 or 12 games or whatever. So then we were ranked, and we lost to Massachusetts out in Hawaii. That was our first loss,
and they were like the number one team in the country at that point.
Yeah, so right? they were really good. But after that the start we had and the way we were playing, I knew we had a chance to win it all. I knew we could make a run because, we had all the pieces, and Lazarus was that piece that, he can get everyone the ball. He was a great pass first point guard, best passer I played with. He was an incredible passer, made the game so easy for you. So we had all the pieces. We had the point guard, we had the scorer, we had the secondary scorer in terms of Todd Bergen, and sometimes the tertiary scorer, whether it's Otis Hill or Todd Bergen, depending on that particular game. So we had those three pieces, and we had a guy that got the ball everyone. Then we had Jay Sapola hitting big shots here and there. So we had a complete team, and it took a team like Kentucky to beat us. A team with 9 future NBA players on it. That's the only type of team that could have beat us that year, because we were locked in, and we had already beat a couple of teams that had a couple of NBA guys on it.
Well, when you had and we'll talk about a second, when you had your number retired in that ceremony, I don't know who said it, but they talked about you literally put the team on your back through the NCAA tournament. So you're being humble. You had a great teammates, but you had a pretty special tournament.
Yeah, but you know what, Sonny, like guys took turns. Like against Kansas, I didn't play great. Otis played really good. And I just try to share the credit, because obviously it takes all of us to get to that point, right? Jay Sapola doesn't hit the shot against Georgia. We're not.
I was going to say that shot that Jason hit on the side out of bounds.
That's why you got to give everyone their credit and their just due, because everyone played a major part. Lazarus hit some big threes against Georgia. He wasn't known as a 3-point shooter.
Right.
So you can't just, I had 30 and 15 that game, but if he doesn't hit those big shots and Sapola doesn't hit the shot on the baseline, we don't win. So that's why I try to make sure everyone gets their just credit, because I get enough credit, everyone. So I want to make sure I share that credit, and everyone knows that it was more than me in '96. Everyone played a big part and took turns during that run for us to come up big.
Yeah, no, you were though the leading scorer in the tournament, John. I mean, you had 131 points through the tournament. I mean, so like Sonny said, I know you're being humble and everything, but take us on. You guys were a 4 seed, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
So take us on the 6 games it took you through that tournament. Take us on the run. Who did you get in the first round?
Was it Montana State?
Okay.
I think it would be Montana State, and the craziness is we had a loss of power the night before at my apartment, so I missed the plane to go out to the tournament. I missed the plane.
Are you kidding me?
What?
I'm serious. So
Coach B could not have been
Coach
happy
had
about
to
that.
be
Oh my
losing it.
God, I can't
He
even
had to be
imagine.
losing it. Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
so I get up, and when I sleep, I have no concept of time. So I wake up like 3-4 hours later, and the trainer I called was like, basically, we left a ticket for you at the airport. It's afternoon flight. You'll be here tonight, whatever. And you're worried about it, like, oh man, I don't want anyone to think I like blew it off, or I'm not taking it serious in my senior year, and I don't want my teammates to think, I'm not taking this serious. So I had this whole thing prepared to say to them, and then Coach Boeheim quelled the whole thing by, I get there, we have a huddle. He's like, all right, John's gonna start. If they have any problems about it, just tell the reporters to talk to me about it. We're here to win games. Let's just bring it in. Hard work, let's go. And that was it. Like it wasn't even brought up again. And this is the pre-social media days, so you didn't have to deal with all that. But it really put the whole team at ease, and we just went out and played. And we beat Montana, and then we beat Drexel, right? We beat Drexel and Malik Rose.
Yeah.
And then we beat Georgia then we beat Kansas. Because
Two big wins.
the Georgia game, we thought we were going to be playing Purdue.
You didn't have any slouchy games. I mean, they were all good teams you played.
No, and Georgia was a good team, man, with Shannon Anderson on that team.
Yep.
So they had a really good team. Carlos Strong, Terrell Bell. And then the Kansas team, which was Jock Vaughn, Paul Pierce, Ray for the French, Scott Pollard. And
there's a couple
home.
NBA guys.
Yeah. So we sent them home.
I'd say so.
To go to the Final Four. And then we beat Mississippi State, which had more NBA guys than Dante Jones and Eric Dampier.
Dante Jones, yep.
Yeah.
Knicks.
And that was one of those games where I was kind of like, I wasn't playing great at first. And Dante Jones was playing incredible the first 4 minutes of the game, and he caught a dunk, and he started talking junk to me. And he was the first person all year to start, like, I normally initiated the trash talking. And to have someone initiate it to me, I was like, whoa, hold on. You're feeling yourself here. Let's see who's going to be talking at the end of this game. So once you get me going, now it's like, all right, let's go. Let's get it. And you can see parts of that game, I'm telling them, come back down, like, answer this. I'm going to keep answering you. You can't answer this. Like, you're not going to be able to keep answering this bell because you're not that good. I was telling them. And, so that was like, wake up, like, all right, you can't be out here, half stepping, so to speak. And then the Kentucky game, I talk about it all the time. I feel like we would have won if I didn't foul out. And I feel like 3 of those calls were terrible. And I told the refs that. I told them all they jerked me as I was leaving the court. You just want to have a chance to go out like fighting, not sitting on the bench fouled out.
You like boxing. You want to be on your feet.
We were making our run there, and that was the only time that Lazarus and I playing from age 14 to age 22 that we weren't on the same page. I was telling him to throw the lob on that play. He threw the chest pass. It got deflected, and trying to retrieve that chest pass, how I got my 5th foul. Because I just got a dunk on him, and I was telling the Z, just throw it up. Like, just, I'll go and get it. It was, I think it was either, it wasn't, what's the big guy that, Mark Pope that played for the Pacers, the one who deflected the ball, and I was trying to, but he wasn't an athlete, so I was just telling Z to throw it up. I would just dunked it on his head. It'd have been a 2-point game, and we were rolling because all their momentum was gone, and Tony Delk only scored 4 points in the second half. They were on the ropes right then and there, and we let them off, right? That play let them off.
So you finish out a phenomenal career, like Chuck said, where you were at in historic numbers in terms of Syracuse across the board. Now you get picked by the New York Knicks, first round, number 18th pick. How'd you feel about that?
Lifelong
Right.
dream fulfilled.
Knicks.
Life changes overnight. I've always loved the Knicks, even though I love Syracuse to my heart. Like I love Patrick Ewing too. I love, you just had to respect with Patrick Ewing, the player. So my first basketball sneakers were Ewings. So I love Patrick Ewing. I love Bernard King. He's the first NBA player that I was like, oh my God, how did he do that? And when he was just scoring like in bunches, he just score and score and score. So to be drafted by the Knicks was incredible. To be a part of that, Knick family, which I'm still a part of now. I work for the Knicks. I do a lot of stuff, the MSG networks. I do at the games and the community. So it couldn't have worked out better for me. Now on draft night, I thought I should have went higher, but the fact that I went to the Knicks and being in a big market like that, I was able to get a big $750,000 Carl Kanai sneaker deal. So that made up for the money I lost out on the draft position. And just being in New York, like I said, it's still paying me to this day. So everything worked out beautifully, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You had a long career now. You played in the NBA from what was it, 96 to 2004?
Yep.
Right. And now you traveled a little bit. So how long were you with New York before you got traded?
I only actually played 2 years in New York. And then the rest I played, Minnesota, Miami, Toronto, Detroit, Phoenix. And then I played over in Italy and Greece also. And loved it. I wouldn't trade a second of any of my pro career. I loved it all. I didn't love Detroit, but you can never be ungrateful for being in the NBA, right? So as much as I didn't like Detroit, the fact that you're still in the NBA was great, but we weren't a good team. But I didn't really care too much for the city itself, but Derek and those guys love that city. I'm not sure how and why, but
I was gonna say you better be careful, DC.
Right.
You're gonna listen to this. You're gonna what? So let's talk about. So you go from there now. When did you get the call from Syracuse that they're going to retire your number?
John Wowhack reached out to me, sent me a message, called me, and basically let me know almost 8 months prior that that they were going to be retiring my number, and then we're just figuring out a date at that point. And it couldn't have worked out better for me. Coach Boeheim's 44th season, my number gets retired on a leap year, February 29th. So I have all these special moments and times, and I jokingly, that's the only way I can one up Derek Coleman, because he one up me everywhere else with that number, being number one pick and everything else in the career he had. So my retirement, I think I one upped him a little bit.
Yep. Well, listen, it's been an unbelievable career, John. I mean, from start to finish, and you're working now with the community and doing your thing, and that's great that you give back to the people that have helped you and stuff like that, and help kids and stuff get better. I know you're involved with, we talked prior to the show. I know you're involved with the Knicks camps every summer.
Yep.
I've seen you out at a couple of them, and you interact with every single kid that's there, and it's really great, because not all the guys that are in the league in today's times do that the way you guys did. Starks is at everything too, and Larry's at Larry Johnson's at everything too. I mean, you three guys are the staples really for all the Knick camps and stuff. I think it's really great that how you do that, and that
Thanks,
you stay
Chuck.
involved like that.
Appreciate that, man. And it's an even better job than playing in the NBA, working with the Knicks, because there's no wear and tear in the body. and we get paid pretty well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the least we can do is go out there and interact with the kids. So, you know, for me, I remember Vinnie Johnson coming to Dick's in Rochester, New York, after the Pistons won the championship, signing autographs, and he talked to me. And you know, if I ever got a chance to be in a position to have someone to say, you know what, I talked to a former NBA player, or I touched them, or I played one-on-one with them, I'd make sure I do that. And that's, I mean, not that I have a valuable autograph, but if I did, I'd have the least valuable autograph, because I sign everything for anyone. Like, I don't care who it is. I've been signing autographs since I was 15. And for me, it's always humbling to this day when someone asks me for my autograph or a picture. I mean, that just means someone's, you know, appreciating something you did years ago and the work you put in. It's very humbling, and I don't take those things for granted. So when I get a chance to interact with a kid, I make sure it's real. They something they can remember, something they can go home and talk about a little bit, just like I did.
Yeah. Hey, one last question, John, and we'll wrap this thing up. We appreciate your time and everything tonight. What are some of the things? What's the one thing, if a kid came up to you and said, "Hey, what's the most important thing about being a professional athlete and going through it?" What would you tell them to give them a piece of advice? What piece of advice would you give a youngster that would come up and ask you?
I'm gonna get up close to the camera for this one.
Okay.
Because there's no secret sauce. There's no special Kool-Aid. You just gotta work. You gotta be willing to get up every single day and put in work. Get off your phone, get off your social media. If your friends aren't working out every day, get new friends. Work out by yourself. That's what I did. People can't believe it, but I used to work out 10 hours every day. I wasn't some basketball prodigy. I wasn't a definite Syracuse bound player. Just because I'm 6'8", 6'9", that doesn't give you a rite of passage to go to Syracuse or any school. You got to work. You got to want it. And for me, even when you're working and you're working hard, sometimes you might wane a little bit. You might be like, all right, I'm good. But I got reminded, you know, when I played against Juwan Howard in high school, he kicked my ass. I mean, he had 32 points, 18 rebounds, and I remember it vividly at the Boston shootout. And I remember thinking when I went home, I got a lot of more work to do. Like, because I was ranked, I was really good, but I played against someone who was actually better than me, and it was humbling. And I had to go back and get to work. And you know, I didn't crawl in a corner and be like, all right, I can't wait to play against you again, Juwan. And honestly, the next time we played against each other was in the NBA. And we talked about us hanging out in Boston, and when we were talking about, he was talking about Benny Wilson, the Benji Wilson, the kid who got killed in Chicago, who's, you know, one of the best players ever. And I was talking about Lloyd Daniels, the New York prodigy guy, and what he went through. And I remember we were arguing who was better. And, you know, we just remember, like, we didn't have an NBA thought at that time. We were just young kids, pure unadulterated fun at a Boston shootout camp. And that camp woke me up and said, you know what, you got to even work harder than you've been working, because there's guys out there who are better than you. And if you have that mindset, if you think people are better than you, you'll just keep working. You won't get complacent. You know, that's what I tell all young kids. Work every day. How much did you work today? Well, because when you go against a guy that's working out every day, you're gonna know the difference.
Very well said.
Good point. That's true.
Very well said. There's no shortcuts. Nothing's for free, John. We all got scholarships to play basketball in college, but that wasn't for free. You know, there was blood, sweat, and tears that went into that scholarship. So
it was hard.
Nothing's
it was
for
hard.
free.
It's hard to earn that scholarship, and it's even harder to keep it because guys are coming in every year. You know how that is.
Oh, yeah.
I remember back then, man, Coach Boeheim would like almost be like, you know, ready to take your scholarship if you weren't playing that particular day, or if a guy on another team, he'd tell you, I didn't even offer that guy a scholarship and he's kicking your ass. I mean, I didn't even offer him. We came and got you.
Well,
I can hear that
very
voice right
much.
now.
Thank you very much for joining us, John. I appreciate your time and spending time with us and cutting it up with us. Is really great.
Man,
having a
anything for
conversation.
my Cuse brother, Sonny. You know, that's the
That's
Cuse
right.
family. That the one thing about Coach Boeheim being there so long is we all have that one common denominator. It brings us closer. We're all brothers. We all played for the same coach. We all have the same stories. So
Mhm.
there's nothing like the Cuse family. Looking forward. I'll see you on February 5th, Sonny.
February 5th.
For the Louisville
See you
game,
there.
for alumni weekend.
Yep.
And, Chuck, I'm sure I'll see you this summer at one
Absolutely.
of the basketball camps, my brother.
Well,
And thank
I got
you guys
one
for
last
having me.
thing to say to you, John. I got one last thing to say to you. Cuse is in the house.
Oh my God.
John Wallace has been our special guest today on the Big East Rewind. We thank you again, brother, for coming out. The Big East Rewind was produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus and Daryl Gurney. And you can catch us on YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You also can get us on Twitter at Big East Rewind. And if you wanted to email us, if you have any suggestions or would like to talk to Sonny and I, you can get us at bigeastrewind@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for joining us. Have a great night, everybody.